Hello and welcome back. I'm joined by Mark Fairless, the CEO of Clearbank. Mark, thank you for joining me.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. Clearbank is an amazing organisation, amazing UK fintech. But for those who haven't heard, can you talk a bit about the role that Clearbank plays in the ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. We at Clearbank are building the financial infrastructure behind the next generation of digital finance. And that's across payments, clearing, and embedded banking. So I guess what that means is that we help fintechs, banks, and now corporates hold, move, store money in real time, all through kind of modern cloud API native technology, rather than the sort of legacy systems that have held them back in the past. So, we were the first new clearing bank for 250 years. As I say, born in the cloud, API native, ISO 20022 standards. And what we have really been able to do is unlock the fintech boom that there has been in the UK. And that's our mission, right? Is essentially to unlock the potential of our clients, so that they can have the freedom to do what they want to do, and not have to worry about the kind of the plumbing and the infrastructure behind what they do. That's our job.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it. You've built the infrastructure to enable the fintech boom that we've seen in London. You're partnering with amazing organisations. I read Revolut, Wealthify, Chip. Everybody knows these well-known, often consumer-facing fintechs. They've done amazingly well. I think what they don't always realise is that you're kind of have built the rails to enable these companies to provide the level of services that they do.
That's right. I mean, I'm quite often in conversations actually where I'm talking to people in the market and they don't realise they've got a Clearbank account. So the sort of beauty of embedded banking is, other organisations. So you mentioned Wealthify, there's Chip, there's Tide, there's any number of them, right? So we are white labeling our bank accounts through those other organizations so that they don't have to be a bank. They can offer banking products, but fundamentally it's a Clearbank product at the end of it. So it's quite a unique kind of business model that we have in the UK. We're the only real scale player doing that, and it's been a huge success for us. So we now have 8 embedded banking partners, but behind them are sort of 2.5 million end consumers, most of whom don't realize that it's Clearbank that they have an account with. It's a great product.
And can I touch on, you're very UK focused, but you've definitely been looking at European expansion. I think are you live? Have you already expanded into some European markets?
Yeah, right. So we were founded in the UK, and we sort of got going in 2017 in the UK, and there's a huge amount still for us to do in the UK. So lots planned. But you're right. So European expansion is the first step on our international expansion. So we got our license with the DNB in August of last year. And we've been ramping up ever since. We really got going in March of this year when we got live with all the different payment schemes. And we're having huge success there. So I guess, going to the EU, what that's enabling us to do is not only win new business in the EU and support fintechs and the same innovation that we've had in the UK translate over into the EU. What it's also doing is it's allowing our UK customers to move with us into the EU. We're a very client led organization, and the hypothesis of going to Europe was because we want to help our clients achieve what they want to achieve. And if they're in the EU, if they're in Europe, then that's where we should be as well, in order to better support them. And it really puts us as a regional player for the first time. So able to take on much larger organizations and help them to innovate and access the real time kind of payment infrastructure and the embedded banking infrastructure that we have on a much larger scale than we've been able to do in the past. So there's a huge opportunity in the EU for us. It's a market that's sort of 4 to 5 times the size of the UK. We're really excited about that, and we've had some good early success. We've now got nearly 25 clients live. The payment volumes are growing very well. We're passporting across the EU. We're about to open our first branch. So really excited about what we can do in Europe, as well as in the UK.
That's amazing. But what does that launch or expansion look like? Are you able to keep your team here, or do you need offices or kind of like headquarters in Europe as well?
So the beauty of what we do is, we've built a fantastic tech platform, a fully scalable, resilient, as I talked about, cloud API native. It's really the sort of crown jewels of what we do, and that can be taken to different geographies. So it's a single sort of tech stack, single product set that we've taken to the EU and that we'll take to others, and so a shared platform. And so as far as possible, there's a real benefit from that business model. However, we are a bank, and we have a banking license in the UK and a banking license in the EU. We take the view that in order to be successful, we want to be close to our clients as well. So there is a footprint in the Netherlands. So we're based out of Amsterdam for our EU bank, as I say, also opening branches in France where we'll look to hire some people as well. But so we will absolutely have a European footprint. I think that just makes sense, both in terms of understanding the market locally, understanding what the clients want locally, understanding the intricacies of different payments and schemes and regulatory environments. So we will stay a UK footprint heavy business, but we're absolutely on a expansion drive in the EU as well.
And the organizations that you've started to partner with across Europe, have they been the similar type of organizations with the very similar use cases that you've done in London and the UK, or are you seeing slightly different pulls or customer profiles?
Yeah, well, it's been really interesting, actually. So going back to sort of why we went to Europe, we went to Europe to better support our existing client base. And about half of the clients that we've got live in Europe at the moment were already UK clients. So a high proportion of them are moving with us. So they already had banking partners in Europe, but our partnership is in a good place where they are willing to then move to us to kind of better execute on their product set, their ambition, their own purpose. And then about half of them are net new clients, but they're all kind of in the fintech and banking space. So similar, all want to kind of change financial services in their own way and with different propositions for their clients. And so we do see a big sort of similarity in the client base, in the EU. At the moment in the EU, we're focused on clearing and payments, rather than the sort of embedded banking that'll come later. But already we're getting a lot of inbound interest in European businesses of a similar nature to the UK businesses that we already partner on embedded banking. So the demand is there, and it's great. I mean, it is a different market. We didn't go into Europe with the assumption that it's a copy and paste of the UK. I think that would have been a mistake. There's lots of nuances within that, and of course Europe is a single market, but of course it's sort of not. And there's a lot of regional variations around that. So that's why I sort of talk about we're going into branches. France makes sense first for a branch. There's a lot of kind of regional variation between the different EU states. But no, so I guess in summary, I guess it's similar. It's currently a similar client base, who have seen the success that we've had in the UK and are coming with us, to join that in Europe.
No, amazing. And you talk about the complexities of scaling in Europe and the fact that it isn't really a single market, especially when it comes to financial services and the complexities there. Did you ever think, okay, maybe the US would be a better market to go after first? I mean, we're seeing a lot of the UK fintechs, whether it's Starling, Monzo, Revolut, are all trying to tap into the US market now. Was that ever an option, or did Europe always just make the most sense?
Yeah, and so it's definitely something we looked at, because I think the first three would always be, I think, UK, EU, US. Then the question is in what order. So exactly the right question. I think what we did, the view we took was, there's more client centricity, by going to Europe first. So, that's where our clients were more present. That's where the demand was coming from our clients. And so I say we're a client-led business. But having now done that and scaling very successfully so far in Europe, the demand is now for the US. So we are looking at how might we do that. And you're right, it's increasingly a market that the UK fintechs and neobanks, unicorns are all kind of heading towards. They've all got a similar strategy, I think, for how they're going to get there, which is actually a great success. A success that the UK should be proud of, that we've managed to build and scale these businesses to a size where not only are they successful in the UK, but turning their attention to the US. So the EU made sense on the basis of, our clients and what they wanted, but they also want the US. And so that's what we're looking at next.
Really interesting. And I think that makes sense from a market expansion angle. When you look at product expansion or new innovative products, how are you and how is Clearbank thinking about the excitement that we're seeing over something like stable coins at the moment? Is that a space that you're getting yourself interested in? Are you able to facilitate kind of accounts or payments in that space? Are you looking at doing something in that sort of like that new world?
Yeah, so stablecoins is a really exciting development for a variety of reasons. And if you look at what the success and the way it's taken off in the US, with trillions in transactions now, the success of Circle, you can see that stablecoins are making rapid impact on payments and financial services, and our view is that is likely to continue, and we welcome that. I think what it enables is the removal of friction and complexity in the payment flow. Enables kind of real-time cross-border payments, which we've not really is not an easy thing to achieve. So stablecoins are a really interesting and innovative solution to a kind of problem of complexity. I think we want to be at the edge of innovation on payments and clearing. We are, a clearing bank, the first for 250 years. So if we want to be in that space, we have to adapt with where that's going. And so we are kind of very closely looking at what is it we can do there. We have signed some partnerships, that we'll announce in due course about, our plans, in that space. I think, looking at the difference between the UK and the EU, what we can see is that the EU are a bit further ahead at the moment in terms of the regulatory framework with the MiCA regulations. I know the UK are looking to be kind of fast followers and to accelerate the kind of regulatory framework there. So we will welcome that when it comes for the UK. But in the meantime, I think in the EU there's some interesting things we can do. We absolutely want to be looking in that space and embracing it and moving with the times and continuing to kind of embrace the innovation in the sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many exciting things going. It seems like it's having such a big moment. But it sounds like there's definitely things that you're working on, and we'll probably be able to talk about more in due time. I also wanted to touch on your background as a CFO. You joined Clearbank as a CFO. You then kind of got promoted and brought in as CEO. What's that experience and that transition been like from CFO to CEO, and how has your role changed?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I've had a few times, and I think people sometimes struggle with my answer, which is, it hasn't been, that big, as big a transition as maybe people may think. And you go, well, why would that be the case? But I guess as CFO, you have a very good understanding of the business, right? So you know, how the business works, what the drivers of it are. You know the main players that you're dealing with. You're outward facing, and you are dealing with the strategy and the direction of the organisation. So you know the organisation inside out, and that's a pretty good basis for sort of moving. And it was a fantastic honour to be asked to be the CEO of Clearbank. I think it's a privilege, and I think Clearbank is a business that over the next few years is going to continue to do great things and innovate in the market. I think the key differences, I guess, coming to that part of the question, and it's all upside from my perspective. Spending time with clients, dealing with a broader range of colleagues and issues, the breadth of what you have to deal with as a CEO is substantially more than the CFO. And also as a CFO, you're kind of a strategic advisor as the CEO. You've got to make the decisions. And so that's a big difference, too. But fundamentally, the things that come with it, the kind of meeting clients, understanding what they need, mapping out a path forward. I love all of that. So it's been a really, really welcome, transition for me. Very, very much enjoying it. And I can't wait to see kind of what we can deliver over the next few years, at Clearbank.
Amazing. And what do you think, or how has being the CFO shaped your, I mean, in some ways it's almost easy, right? Because you say you've got an amazing visibility of the business, you know the business inside out, but how has it shaped the way that or has it changed the way that you approach those customer relationships or the product side of things, having that CFO background?
I'm sure it has. It's sort of part of my training, part of my experience, part of who I am. I guess if I think about what skills sort of a CFO brings, the experience that a CFO brings and how that translates across to sort of the things that are going on. I suppose when I was a CFO, I was focused on how do we build this business for scale, right? It's grown rapidly, grown very quickly. What we need to do is make sure that we're investing in the right places so that we can scale this business in the right way, at the right pace, and do all of those things. And that essentially is sort of building a machine within the business to sort of take it forward. And I think, moving over to CEO, that continues to be a focus, but in a very different way. So how do we make sure, as we're now an organization of 800 plus people. And so the way we think about moving forward is different to when we had 200, 300 people. So how do we set ourselves up for the next stage of our evolution, of our growth, and really kind of untap the sort of talent of everyone in the organization and mature, as an organization without losing the essence of who we are. We're really proud of the culture we've got and the relationships and the collaboration that we have. We need to keep that. But we need to sort of build ourselves a scalable environment that we can continue to grow. So I think that is one kind of, I guess, read across from being the CFO. But I've also intentionally tried to vacate the space of the CFO. We now have another CFO. I'm not going to step on his toes. So that's for him now. And I've kept him, given him a wide berth so that I don't get involved in that, and thrown myself much more into the product side of things, the client side of things, where, actually, and it's great because it's really interesting part of the business. And a part of the business where I have, I think, strong views on what we need to do. So, yeah, as I say, really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. And, there's been a lot of talk about the state of both the UK more generally, but also the tech market as a whole. Putting on your CFO hat, what do you make of the market at the moment? And is that, I know that Clearbank raised, I think, a bunch of money earlier this year or last year from Apex Digital. Are you thinking about the state of the market, whether that's capital markets and IPOing, whether that's the opportunity to run secondaries, whether that's the ability to raise more money? Are you looking at the market dynamics, and is that shaping the vision that you have for Clearbank?
Yeah, you're right. So we're fortunate to have raised some money in 2022 with Apex Digital, and that combined with, I guess, profitability in the UK bank, we're very well funded for the plans that we have. But of course, we're always looking at the state of the market and what's happening. And I think if you look more broadly, what you can see, and I'm sure everyone sort of is familiar. The state of the IPO market in the UK, I think, isn't where we want it to be. The liquidity in the market isn't quite there. The valuations aren't there. And you see that in the number of businesses that are choosing to list in the US, where, the perception is it's an easier place to list. There's greater risk appetite for growth stocks, growth businesses, and so you get a higher valuation and access to deeper pools of capital. Now, I think there's a lot of focus. I think the government are focused on what they can do to help the UK market. I think there's some green shoots, in terms of stuff that's happening. It's great to see Shawbrook announce that they were looking at an IPO in the UK. I think Revolut have announced they're looking at a dual listing. So, and there's the Pisces, market where there's the ability to exchange private shares. So there's things happening that are moving in the right direction. I think there's a lot of will to make the UK more competitive on an IPO side. And I think that will happen. I think we will get there. I think there's a huge amount of UK success stories waiting, for that to happen. And I think once it starts to happen, then it'll happen really quickly, and that we'll see that grow. But as for ourselves, I've essentially, taking up the CEO role, mapped out our strategy for the next three to 5 years. That doesn't require, any primary capital raises or anything of that nature. So for now, we're focused on executing on that strategy.
Amazing. Can I ask, when you look at something like Pisces, is that something that's like interesting or exciting for Clearbank? Not necessarily whether you would take part in it, but is that something that you look at and think, okay, this is a government that is willing to try innovative things to try and reopen our capital markets up in some way or another?
I think it's as a sign of intent and a sense of direction. I think it's really positive. I think you take that, but you also take things like the Leeds reforms that were announced at the Mansion House speech earlier this year. You can see that the government are serious about tackling the issue. I think, there's definitely been a recognition that, we've had a huge volume of success at the startup level. And now we've got a series of businesses going through kind of a scale up journey. And they're not quite getting the same level of support that they did as startups. So how do we help them grow? And I put Clearbank right in that camp. And so the sort of Leeds reforms that were announced, by the Chancellor earlier this year, with changes around MREL and capital requirements, changes, around kind of, the timeframes for regulatory approvals, for SMCR, the creation of scale-up unit, that there's lots of things that are happening that are moving us in the right direction. And so I'd say that with Pisces and other things are a real signal of intent that the government is looking to support the growth, continued growth of the sector that's been such a success.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more that it's a great intent, and it does look like that the market is changing at the moment with like Shawbrooks and other companies, and what are they called, the Beauty Group IPO'd, and Revolut dual listing. It feels like we really reached the bottom, and it feels like now we're starting to see things turn up again. But look, Mark, I'm conscious we're out of time. But thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to chatting. I love what you've built. I love what you're kind of providing through your products for the fintech ecosystem. Let's stay in touch.
Fantastic. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Mark.